so, full-ish. Some people will be logging on while we're starting. So welcome everyone. It's time to get started. My name is Melinda Berkman and I'm your member outreach and training specialist for HAR. You've probably seen me on a lot of our HAR classes. I'm going to be here today with just to assist with kind of the host capabilities and questions throughout the program. Today's property management webinar, this is part 2 of your 3-part series. Each webinar focuses on the beginning to end overview processes for each of our topics. The goal is to help you establish standard processes to increase your efficiencies, reduce your risk, and improve your company's overall standards, of service. Today's program was facilitated by Paula Cleveland. Hey, Paula. Before I formally introduce her, I want to remind you guys to put your questions in the chat throughout the afternoon. You can choose for the questions to go to everyone or just a panelist, but all will be fielded and addressed as time permits, mostly at the end. But if we have a lot of the same questions throughout, I'll call Paula's attention. But it's really hard for her to share screen and teach and monitor the chat too, okay? Since I know everyone's going to ask, the webinar is recorded and will be distributed to you by email. Of course, watching live is always a better experience though, right guys? We have our HAR.com, HAR TV page on our YouTube channel where you can see prior recordings of other webinars. This webinar is not for CE credit though. Therefore, you do not need to be on camera and you will be muted, so we don't have to worry about background noise or anything. So let's get started. We have an exceptional subject matter expert leading you through our program today. This is Paula Cleveland. She's the broker owner of Keynote Signature Properties. She's a licensed realtor since 2003. She has more than 20 years of experience in residential real estate with specialization in property management. Paula also holds multiple designations. She has a past chairman and current board member of NARPM, the National Association of Residential Property Managers, and a past chair of HAR Management Central and Property Management Advisory Group. Paula, thank you for taking your time to share your knowledge with us today. I will now pass the virtual floor over to you, and I will be here if you need me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So I just want to start off by saying thank you everyone for attending and working to make your property management move in and move out processes much bigger and much better than maybe you have in the past. So there's a lot of meat in this class, and the fun thing is we were going to do move in as one class and move out as another, so we're wedging it in an hour and a half. We're going to try to leave a little bit of time, of course, for questions on this. The first series, I'll start back just a minute, so I won't go into that very much. There's going to be a lot of depth in some areas that there's no way we could go that deep. One of them is the security deposit and the refund and the challenges with that kind of thing. We covered that in the first class. Hopefully you got to see that part. And then the last class that we're going to do is violations. So there'll be a lot of things within a move out process that you might want to ask about on the violation side, which I can understand, or during the tenancy thing, but we won't be able to cover it most likely in this class. So I just wanted to start off with what I know we might not get to. So let's just jump in.
Interrupt right there. I misspoke and people are panicking on the chat. It's part 2 of a 3-part series. They thought they missed part 3 or part 2. This is part 2 of the 3-part series. Sorry about that. And also Paula wants you guys to answer some poll questions, and I will come on and let her know your answers to this. I'm going to push launch poll, and a little white box is going to come up with 2 questions. Are you currently performing property management duties? Yes or no? And do you own your own property investment properties? Okay. And I'm going to let you keep talking, and then I'll interrupt in just a couple minutes when they've gotten stopped answered.
Awesome. Thank you so much. By all means. Okay. So we're going to take, let me see if my, there we go. We're going to take a life cycle approach to move in, move out. In other words, we know that if we're moving tenants in, we're eventually going to move them out. We hope it meets the criteria of whatever the lease agreement says, 12 months, 24, whatever it is. And hopefully you'll renew on and on and on. But the truth is, if you have one property, whether you're a one-man show or a full team of people, someone is going to onboard and going to move out tenants. So let's just process it in that big picture. We want to map for success. We want to be the resource. You're the property management team. You're the person that they need to come to for this process. And so we want to be the resource. We don't want them to have an experience somewhere else and utilize that as their go-to. Did you need me?
Yes, they're saying they can't hear you. So they have their volume at 100 and you're sounding very small. You sound fine for me, but I have headphones in, so I think that might be why. Maybe jack it up. And while you're working on that audio setting, I can go ahead and let you guys know what the question answers we've gotten. 55 out of 61 of you have answered, and that's totally fine. For the first question, are you currently performing property management duties? We have 40% of 40 out of 55 saying yes, and 15 of you saying no. And do you own investment properties? 30 of you are yes, and 25 are no. All right, let's see. I want you guys to give me, some of you are saying you can hear her fine. It may be your audio settings on individuals. And by the mute button, there's a little caret to point that'll go up, and you can check your audio settings and see if you can go through a different speaker. It may be you're going through a smaller one than the full speaker. Okay. Okay. Headphones may be the answer too. All right, Paul, I'm gonna let you go.
Okay, so I turned mine up to 100%, and I kind of did a little move around for myself, and I can talk a little bit louder. Is that hopefully that will help a lot? Just let me know if there's some additional challenges. I also really appreciate that somebody else is managing all that. Thank you so much. Okay, so be the resource. Make it an experience that they would really appreciate. For some people, they've moved a million times. For some people, this is the highlight of their life for this year. They're moving to a single family resident property, and this might be the very first time they've ever done that, and they're really, really, really needing some guidance. No matter what, you need to give guidance, because this is your system. This is how it's going to run while you're managing the process. And so you want to be as directive in the nicest way that you can to give them clear vision of where to go. The other thing that we're going to work on a little bit is SWOT, which is an analysis kind of process. And I built this program so that you can take it back to your team or to your desk if you're a one-man show, and really start to develop something that can make you stand out and be a really good onboarder of tenants. So in other words, be the wow factor. All right. Here's some things you 50% of us, or however many are on there, already know. It's a people business. It's not about the property, although the property is the visual. It's the thing they're going to live in. It is about the property. The people make the property a moneymaker, right? So the tenants are super important to the owner. They're super important to the property, because they're going to be the maintainers of the property, other than the service issues that come up or the maintenance. So we're also a service industry, and we have to know that before we get to that point that we're going to be communicating. We're problem solvers, and it's a lifestyle. It doesn't end. There's a whole cycle here, and so we already know those things. All right, let's talk about SWOT. It's an acronym for words. Strengths and weaknesses are specific to you and to your property management company. So we're going to skip those two for now and come back to them, because they're going to be really important when you start to work on how you're going to produce and be a great onboarder. So let's talk about opportunities now, the O part of SWOT, and say, what are the opportunities that come about from us building a good onboarding and offloading? That's not the right way to say that, but move out process. Well, first of all, you're developing trust. You're developing your good communication with your tenants, how they should expect to communicate with you. And you're going to be a support and manage the challenges, and you're going to be reducing risk just by making sure you're available, that you're attending to their needs, that you're being very responsive, and that you have a process for them. That is so, so helpful. Set the standards and the expectations, of course, for their processes. And you're also going to be reducing risk. And there's lots of risk to be, stress. You're also going to be reducing your stress, not just your stress, but their stress. They're not going to be, hoping that you show up and you give them good information. There's also some threats. If you don't put this in order and get it together, there's some things that could occur. Not having clear direction, like we're talking about, that is truly a threat. No communication, it doesn't necessarily mean there's not a challenge or a problem out there. Also kind of develops fear. It can cause fear within your company. Like, do you know what's going on? No, I don't know. Well, does anybody know what's going on? No, I don't know. That's not a good thing. Also fear for the tenants. Well, they just start assuming, right, the worst. I have a theory that there's an EOR out there or two that could be in your company or in the tenant side. If you've got two people in your company and one of them's an EOR, oh, they're calling again. Oh my gosh, here we go. You don't want that to be, the process for your whole tenancy for years. I mean, you don't want that. I mean, I surely don't want that. I really want us to have the most exciting experience that they can during their tenancy. We can't fix everything, but by gollies, we can sure be an encourager through the process. Also, another threat is there are some real risk levels that could rise. It could compound, right? You start off on the bad foot, or they feel like they're not going to be communicated well with. They just it can elevate, it can grow. There's also a lot of challenges that are consistent in any property. There's HVAC systems that get hot and don't work. There's hot water heaters that go out. There's leaks. I mean, you name it. If you're doing property management, it seems to be they come in series. We're all working on HVACs. It's 105 degrees, those kinds of things. If you don't have your systems in place from the very beginning, and they don't know that they can reach out to you, again, that just compounds the problems. There's also the real threat of legal or financial loss, and nobody wants to get to that level. So let's just start off with the very beginning. You want to start from the very, very beginning and develop a message that is inviting and encouraging. Use templates whenever you can. If you're going to have one move-in, again, you're going to have multiple move-ins. No matter how many properties you have, templates are the right way to go. Are you going to use email? Are you going to use your management software? Either works. It just depends on what your company needs. And if you have a big software system that does property management with you, you're probably going to want to use that as often as you can, because it's putting it in the notes for you. It's saving you time and energy, and everybody can see that, or whoever you want to see that can see that. It's important to get that information out to your congratulations and your welcome, and out as soon as you can. I say after approval, but really probably after the lease agreement is signed. But you need to figure out what those pieces are and when you're going to plug them in. So plan your move-in communication. So I'm thinking timeline-wise, if you are onboarding somebody, it could be, or a group of tenants, it could be 3 days. It could be 7 days. It could be 15. Think about the short version and how you're going to have to pump out 3 different communications, and the reason why you need 3 different communications. Maybe you need 4. It's just a platform, and I'll explain to you why. But maybe you have 15 days. Maybe you don't want to pump everything out day 1, day 2, day 3. Maybe you want to do 1 day. Maybe you want to do 5 days. Maybe you want to do 10 days. So you'll see what we need in just a second. But too much communication all in one email, it's just too much. They're not going to retain it. It's the 18 or 19 page lease agreement plus. They cannot retain all that information. Also, make sure they understand who the point of contact is. If you're a company and you have multiple people that are touching tenancy or the property or the finances, then you need a single point of contact. Is it your management system? Is it through the text? Is it through the email? Or is it one email address, and is it one person? So just make sure they know who it is. And then your style, your image, and your and just how you want to communicate is really going to be effective if you start off in that way. Do you use the same, do you have a letterhead? Do you have a logo? Is it on everything? Is your signature line the same? If you have multiple people in your company, are all those people labeled? And then is there descriptive of what they do in there? Do they have different phone numbers, or are they all using the same system? Those are all things that are really impactful just to get across every single time. Okay. Sometimes you think, well, duh, it's important dates. Do I really need to send that out? And you do. This is really all the same email in my mind. This is your very first communication. So not only did you do an introduction, but you gave them some very important things. right about the time you think you did a lot, I said, welcome, glad to have you. And here's your copy of your lease agreement. I mean, the very next thing out of their mouth is, oh my gosh, I've got to get movers. I've got to get the utilities turned on. How does that work? So giving them just the outline basics and some dates and timelines are very, very helpful. And then make your subject line of your communication exactly what it is. I mean, if I could go back and check my emails and find the subject that I needed right away just by touching, what's my move in, what's my important date, or where's my welcome letter, I could at least find it that way. Even at this point, when you are first starting out, you don't have a tenant portal set up yet. So just remember, even if you're sending things out of the system, they're not going to be able to go back and relive that. And they can in their own email, but not in a tenant portal if you're doing that. Here's a big thing that it seems like something that is you would think would be normal, but I don't know if it is for people. If you didn't get a response, if you asked for a response back in the email and you didn't get one, maybe you have a tickler reminder that the next day you call that person or send them a text and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I sent you a welcome email. I just wanted to make sure you got it. Follow up, be proactive, be that great communicator that they really need. You are going to find people that still may not respond, but you're trying to, you're the bookend, you're the standard, you're the one who's putting it forward because that's what you're doing. You're managing, you're setting the standard. It's also a really good time to promote your management attitude. It's always an opportunity to lift somebody's day if somebody's stressed out. And we all have people that they just need a lot of hand holding. This helps for the hand holding. You can listen, you can provide it again. I can resend it if you need it, not a problem, that kind of thing. Okay, really good. Who are you? What's your mission statement? What are your core values? Add some things in there that kind of make it lighter and brighter. It's a process, and we all know moving is stressful. Even if you're not buying and selling, moving is stressful. Okay, documentation. We have a Texas Property Code requirement to make sure that your tenants, our tenants get all their documentation. Even if you are saying, hey, we're going to get them loaded to your tenant portal, that is a process in-house. This is communication with the tenant. The moment the lease agreement is signed, they might get one from their tenant rep. If they got one, they might get one directly sent back from the signing process that you're using. But no matter what, if they got it or they didn't get it, you're making a very specific point to get it to them. Get them their documentation. All of it, not just the lease agreement, every addendum and everything that's going to help them. If you offer your tenant portal, go ahead and get that set up just as soon as you can. I know that some people, it's a lot to do. And so the checklist of what all to do is super important. And I love that. I love that you can put together a plan and you can just check it off. I'm a checklist queen. My team is probably down the hall laughing. Consider adding a move-in and showing instructions to your lease document. I'm saying that because remember, we're talking life cycle. You know they're going to move out. And if you already have that developed and it's part of your move-in, it's part of your lease documents, it's an addendum, they already hopefully have read it, understand what move-out is going to look like, and then you can present it at the move-in portion of their tenancy. So we're going to cover that shortly at the move out portion. Also, just doing what's required it's not enough. That's like the legalism side of the relationship, right? We've done the documentation and we got it to you, but what are you doing to welcome them, to make them a tenant, not just a legal tenant, but what are you doing to immerse them into being a part of the management process and living in that home? Have a welcome packet. Put something at the property that would make them feel like you welcome them. I mean, some people don't have a budget for that, and we understand that, and who's going to pay for all that? But there are plenty of things that don't cost that much. You could do a keychain. It could be your company logo keychain. It could be a mug. It could be a thank you. It could be something you print out and you just leave at the house. There's all kinds of things that you can do. And I just want to offer it up as something to think about and to work on as a team. How do you stand out? I mean, what are people going to remember? They're probably going to remember the beginning and the end of their process. They are definitely going to remember challenges along the way, but they're probably, like everybody else, you're only as good as the last great thing you did. So just remember those things. Texas property code and your company standards, they're going to live on through the tenancy. So know your Texas property code and make sure that you're not repeating the lease agreement in your documents that you're building for your company, whether that's landlord rules and regulations, or that's I'm kind of adding a little bit on documentation, just so you know that you just want to be careful that you're not rewriting the lease agreement, or that your company is not far reaching outside the Texas property code and what's legal. And so I've already said it's a full circle approach. It's going to come back to us. Okay, second, communication. Let's say you got them that, they've got that going on. What else do you need to tell them? You need to tell them about the access day, for possession. It's vital and it's time sensitive. It's 3 days, 7 days, 15 days, however far it's out, how long it's out there. You have to know, they have to know how to get in. How are you going to communicate it? I say the same thing. The subject's super important. How will you get possession? There's lots of ways, and there's lots of thoughts behind that. And how will you know who is moving in? We can go deep and wide right here. Here's another one of those ditches, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but are you going to provide a lockbox code at the house? Are you going to have them pick up the keys at your company? What is your company protocol? What's the safety and security measures? I mean, who's moving in? Those are big questions. And then on the day of move-in, who's on call? I mean, I would love, every one of these stages, I would love to believe that nothing's ever going to happen. Nothing's ever going to be broken. You know, the locks are all going to work. The keys are all going to be great. Just no challenges are going to occur, but it's probably not realistic. So just go ahead and plan for it. And then, are you really going to allow a weekend possession date? So it means, are you going to allow keys to be given on Friday just to make sure there's not a problem? Or are you going to have somebody on call on a Saturday or Sunday? Another thing that I say needs to be given right up front is the utility information. Okay, so you got a 3-day move, or you got a 7-day move in, or you got a 15-day, doesn't matter. Most people are super excited and they want to know all their stuff. You do have people that wait to the last minute, that forget, that do whatever, but you need to provide some sort of, or you should provide some sort of utility transfer information. What's your company standard on that? Are you going to use a third-party service provider for all utilities? Or is it part of a benefits package that you're going to buy into or offer up to your tenants? If you're a larger property management company or a medium-sized, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you've never done property management, or you're just working on your own properties, you're probably like, what is that? There are packages that you put together to offer certain benefits, like your portals, or come on, I can think. Filters, air conditioning filters, or just certain things that kind of raise the level of service for your tenants. It's usually a paid service, but one of them is they might have utility service providers that will help them get utilities on. Got some challenges with that, I'll tell you right up front. And here in Texas, they might be national companies. They might not be able to help with the MUDs or the water districts. They also don't know regulated utilities versus deregulated. And we all have areas that are in the Houston market, per se, as an example. Harris County might have deregulated electricity, where you get a little bit more like Montgomery County, or maybe another side county. Walker or Waller, they have either co-ops or specific utility companies, and it's the only one. Not everybody knows that, and not every service can provide that. So you might think you're giving them a good service by offering a third party, and it may not work out, and you might not know to the bitter end that that was a very big struggle for them. So stay in tune with that if you're going to be using those, and check back in with those tenants to make sure they're getting that it's not your third party that's causing them not to get their utilities on. And like I say, we actually don't do a third party. We have per property. The little example over on the right, the service providers for those specific properties, and we get those to them right away. And now HOA is really important, so you can provide HOA websites or information about, maybe the pool or what other amenities are available or things like that, or at least the website. And I hope you don't take this approach. I hope this is not your standard, that it just works out for them, that they can just figure it out. That is definitely not a great standard, and let's not behave that way. Okay, financial accounting. Big part of move-in, of course. This is a portion of your onboarding, your move-in that's probably in-house. Again, if you have different team members or you're that one-man shop, you've got to make sure that all the funds aren't just deposited, but they're good funds and they're in. So if you took something besides a cashier's check, it takes time to get a Zelle through. It takes time to get bank processing done to make sure you have good funds. Posting the funds correctly. What does that mean? Means a lot of things. Again, if you're a system oriented, because remember, all funds are in trust. They're not ours. They're not the companies. They are the owners. The security deposits belong to the tenants, and they should all be held in trust. So make sure your accounting is set up appropriately. And always answer questions in a very timely manner about financing. If they have a question, did you get it? Where is it? What's going on? Just make sure that you can answer the question that same day. That is a very important thing to make sure you're communicating about. And then I'm going to say the third communication, you're setting, again, attitude and service style. And when are you going to do it? Are you going to do it on the same day that they move in, or are you going to do it the next day or like the next week? To me, it's a follow-up. They moved in, you didn't get a call. This is an example. You think everything went well. You haven't heard from anybody. At your next property management processing of this property, whether you're in a meeting with your team or you're just thinking about it, or you're checking out, well, how did it go? I don't know. Did they move in? I don't know. Okay, well, that's probably not the right attitude. It probably needs what's the appropriate way to process somebody who's already moved in. Well, I think a great thing to do is check on them. And how are you going to do that? Are you going to do a call or a text? What a great way to show that you're a caring property manager, whether that's you or one of the team members that does that. What a great way to say, hey, how'd everything go? Just checking on you guys. Did you get all moved in? Know why you're communicating. Another thing is you can ask questions. Did you get the utilities turned on okay? Everything went okay? Did you find the trash can? There's a lot of things you can talk about. Basically, you want them to communicate back with you. What if you're missing something? What if you require renter's insurance and you still don't have that form? Depending on your company policy, you might allow that to come all the way up to move-in date. Well, move-in day came and went, and do you know if they got, because they didn't send you anything? This is your opportunity to kind of go through your checklist, get anything corrected or worked on. Maybe they have a question. Maybe they thought that their move-in report also meant that they were turning in repair request. This is a great opportunity for you to say, that's not true, not in that format, but hey, thank you for letting me know, and give them direction. How did they submit requests for repairs or service? It's not the move-in, move-out form. It's whatever your company says it is. It's an online portal, or is it an email? This is a great opportunity to reiterate that as well. And then whatever you communicated about, do a follow-up. Hey, just Thank you so much for taking my call today. It's great that you guys got all moved in. Just wanted you to know, maybe you did X, or just want to remind you I need this, or whatever. So it's a great way to follow up with notes in your system or your tenant file. We made it. I was worried we weren't going to make it halfway through. So, okay, you're life cycling, you got them in, they've done their tenancy, and now it's time for move out, and there's a trigger for that. And so there's a lot coming up. First of all, either someone gave you notice or the property management gave them notice that the landlord was not going to renew. Somehow notice is given in writing. That's what we expect. That's what the lease agreement says. So given or received, there has to be some sort of real communication. Give really good direction. I want to look at the actual email example that we put on the left there. I'm going to say 3 good communications during a move out is a really healthy number as well. So, hey, we received your move out notice for, August. Well, let's not say August. Yeah, we can say August. August 31st, and we've posted it to your portal, or we've made note of it in your file. Our goal is to have a smooth transition. You may, or you will, whatever your language would be, contacted to schedule a property review in the next few days to establish your current property condition. You may not have that as part of your protocol. You can skip that. You can take it out and prepare for the listing property. Maybe you're just going to make, maybe the listing agent is going to make an appointment to get set up for showings and stuff. And then here is that move out and showing instructions that we developed way back and made part of the lease. If you choose to do that, this is a great place to send that back to them signed so that they know that they already saw it first. But more importantly, this is where we are now. And so just a couple of really important reminders, because these tend to be kind of the top things that just keep coming up. That template that we talked about. Until the move out, please remember the following: pay your rent on time. I know, right? All utilities must remain on until your moving date. Now, I can't tell you how many times you're going to say some of this stuff, but just keep saying it. It's really good that it's in a format that's palatable and that's just reiterated over and over. Security deposits, what about them? Per Texas Property Code, they're strictly prohibited for you using them in lieu of the last month's rent or penalties or anything else. It's just like, well, just in case there was a thought rolling through their mind, probably was, you were able to communicate it right back right there. And then what else do I need? I need your forwarding address. Why? Because I don't even have to account for your security deposit unless I get a forwarding address. And that is straight out of the Texas Property Code or the lease agreement, or both actually. So you can always have a standard template. Let's say they didn't give you notice, but you gave them notice. Well, just tweak your template and say what it is and attach the documentation that goes along with that. And it's a landlord's intent not to renew. And it gives them a timeline in that document. It's a Texas real estate document that you can use to help move that process through. It gives them how much time. You have to post in there the appropriate amount of days based on the lease agreement that you've all agreed to. And don't forget to add the extras. Pictures and words together give more than just a flat line. We all know that text and emails don't always represent exactly what you're trying to convey because it feels 2D. You can't always be on every phone call, and most of the time on the move out for sure and the move in, you really want documentation. You really want the things in your notes that you've given, that you've provided over and over and over. You want to be consistent. You want to treat people fairly. You want it to be the same for everybody. So don't forget those little things that make things even more useful to the tenant. What triggers your communication? Well, you need to decide on your second communication why you're sending it when. So the first communication, if we back up a hair, that was the notice. That's why you sent that information out. The second one, second communication, you need to be providing something that helps them move out. You can give them a checklist. Those are free. They just attach them. You need to give them timelines and dates that are applicable to their move out. You don't want to be sitting on the side going, I hope they got that first email. I hope they're moving out. I hadn't heard from them. Well, sometimes you're going to be in that mode. So you keep being the communicator. You keep that process going all the way to the end. And then that 30 to 60 days, I mean, some contracts, some of your lease agreements will say 60 days. Well, that first 30 days is going to go by pretty fast. What all are you going to do in that process? There's going to be some in-house activities that you're processing, not just communication to the tenant. So you're doing that well. You're giving them some value things and some good communication, but you're doing a lot of stuff in-house. You're preparing a make-ready plan. You're walking the property. What if something isn't in good repair for showings? Are you going to get to show the last 30 days? You won't even know that unless you've been to the property or someone is been to the property. Who's going to do the listing prep? Have you told the owner? Do you have a new lease price for the listing when it goes on the market? Are you going to have photos done again? Can it actually be shown? Is it clean? Do the tenants need to step up and do the things that they're lacking to get it ready to go? This is a move out and showing instruction example. And there's a lot of verbiage in here that will kind of help you develop something that your company can live with and pass out and maybe make part of the lease. So I've offered it up as a document, just not on the screen, because I know we all like to scribble through things and write things and make it our own. But if you did it from the very beginning, then you develop this long in advance, and you may not even know what's on it anymore. It's been a while, unless you have a lot of move in, move outs. But what you're developing here is the expectations of the condition of the care of the property at move out. You're not expecting them to have that 19-page lease agreement and all those documents and landlord rules and regulations and all those things that were part of that process last year or 2 or 3 years ago. If you have a 1-page extension that got you to where you are today, you're not depending on just that. Yes, they can go back and look at their lease. Yes, you can resend it to them, but they need some actual meat here. So you're trying to make it something that's very relevant in what you need to be doing. It basically gives a little bit of information about their move out notice. It explains to them how your company expects showings to go for the property. So read those questions. I've got a few minutes. I can work through a few. Who will be listing the property? Are you using a showing schedule? Are you using a super box? Are you putting a combo on there? How does the tenant, what are they expected to do? They're supposed to put their animals away. Does someone get to look at the whole property, or the yard, or the dog's going to be in the back? All those things are really important for them to understand. All animals might need to be secured. All animals, not the whole property might need to be accessible. You can't say, I'm going to shut the master bedroom or the priority bedroom and nobody can go in there because my cat's in there. That's not a showing. That's like we missed a piece of the house. That was pretty important. So set the standards, set the stage. None of this stuff is going to be in Texas Property Code, and none of this stuff is going to be in your lease agreement. You have to explain to them what the expectations are. Also, are they allowed to use those top locks? Well, if they lock the front door and they lock the back door, the faceless deadbolts, and they go out through the garage, there's no showing agent's going to get through that lock because they have the front door key. So those are really important details that go on this particular form and help you help yourself at this stage. You might actually put some very specific non-negotiables. Do not allow non-scheduled or general public people in the property unless they are accompanied by a real estate agent and have an appointment. We have a company policy. We don't allow unassisted showings. There's a lot of risk to that, to our owners and to the property. So whether the tenants are out and it's a vacant property, or it's tenants in there and somebody's walking up and down the street, there's a risk for them there. We just want them to know that is not our expectation, that they should just let the world in. Let's see, on the move out, how is that going to work? So you need to give them a heads up. Now, you can't wait 7 days before when we do the next communication. You just need to know, they need to understand what's going on now. So how are they going to return keys? What all are you expecting back? I'm sure everything you gave them. If you gave them the firebox key, if you gave them the fob for the garage door opener, I mean, you're expecting it all back because you gave it all to them in your move-in process. So give them all that direction. And then, how are you expecting them to leave? Of course, some of it you're like, well, this is silly. Why? I mean, yes, I expect them to remove all their personal possessions. Yes, I expect them to take out the trash. Yes, I expect them to keep the house in good and clean condition. Yes, you do, but you have to say it. Make sure you're saying if there were non-realty items there, we expect them to be there when you're returning the property. Be very specific about the yard. The lease agreement has a paragraph in there that talks about what is yard maintenance. Well, it's way more than mowing, And so be very specific about what, we gave it to you in this condition. We want it back in that condition. That, for some reason, tenants tend to blank out on certain things like, well, I'm only going to focus on the inside. The exterior is part of the property as well. The windows are part of the property. Mold and mildew on the siding is part of the property. It didn't come in that condition. Yes, it's normal wear and tear to some degree, but some of it might not be. So just make sure you're making people aware of what all of it you want in there. Do you require professional cleaning as part of the move out? If you don't, or you do, make sure you spell it out. How are they supposed to prove it? Or are you requiring a receipt for the professional cleaning? Can they do it themselves? You just need to know what that is, and they need to know what it is. Number 12, that's a big one. A move out property rule review will recur after tenants have surrendered the property. And number 13, tenants are not permitted back on the property after surrender. What does that mean? If your day to move out is July 31st, and you have a key box that they put the key in, and you, as a property management company, or whoever it is that's doing it, goes over, takes the key on the 1st or the 2nd, and you don't want them coming back to the property. Once they've surrendered their property, they're not due back to the property. What if they said, oh, well, we gave you the keys, but we've got stuff left in the backyard? Well, that's not surrender of the property. They're saying that's the end of their thing. They've turned in the keys. There's a process to that, and there could be some legal matters that show up. So you're making it very clear once you surrender, and this is what surrender is, then you've given better direction than just leaving it up very vague. And then number 14, we say this probably at every communication level that we possibly can, how we're going to account for the security deposit. Per the Texas Property Code, I say it a million times, we say it a million times, it's written a million times. We are not going to account for it. We're not required to account for it unless they've provided a forwarding address in writing, and we have 30 days to account for it after we get, it's a 2-4. You've surrendered the property and we have the forwarding address. I can have your forwarding address, you didn't surrender, or I can have the other, whatever, one way or the other. You can surrender and never give it. So those are all covered in the last class, but I just want you to know, just keep saying it. Let's see what else I need to say. And that is the goal to this form, really, is that we would keep reminding the tenant that they're still responsible to the very last day of the lease. If something happens on their watch, they're still responsible for the property. Okay. here's our last sort of communication on move out. And it is, I'm going to call it the 7-day reminder. You could have a 10-day reminder. You could have a 5-day reminder, that whatever you decide to put together, but you're down to the home stretch and you're kind of telling them that you're giving them one more reminder in a very short process. What that looks like. Here's the bare minimum. Here's the move out date. It's very pronounced. And then what's your final? You should repeat yourself over and over, but you do have to. Unfortunately, you do. What is the lockbox code if that's the way you're going to do it? Or or you can do it, put it in a Dropbox at the company office, whatever it is your process is, restate it. And then remind them one more time, until you move out, this is the standard. And then, of course, we're super nice about it at the end of the day. We all have to get there, and we know it's a process. So just keep being nice about it. Final reminders and well wishes. And if you had a great run, if you were a great property management team, company, process, this is a really good opportunity to get a survey done for them. You might not offer it to everybody. You might want to offer it to your tenants that were great tenants, or that you had a good rapport with, or things went really, really well. It's just your opportunity if you're looking for surveys. And then, of course, we just cannot leave without one more value thing that we want to give them. It's just a little reminder. Don't forget. Here you go again. It's the short version, right? Please don't lock those stupid faceless deadbolts. Where to deliver the keys. Please provide your forwarding address. If someone does not provide a forwarding address after we've said it, like, I don't know, 8 times in writing and thank them a million times, you've done your best. That I can just say you've done your very best. And then we also, not every utility has to stay on. Maybe they're going to cut the trash off if that's something else. You surely don't need internet or whatever else they're paying. You got to have the basics still on. You, as a property management company, if you're going to be transferring it into your company name, it is a bear to go stand over at a property and have the gas cut off so somebody else can be over there to have it cut on. These are just things that are going to help you in timing. All right. Whew, we're getting there. Property review. This once the tenant's out, you have a whole nother series of things left to do on the move out. This is your opportunity to go review the property, do your walk, your report, and compare it to what you have on file from before when they took the property. Copious notes are imperative, I think, in property management. If you can't prove it, you probably can't take off for it. If you have very well documented pictures and notes about what condition the property was in, you have great opportunity to legally stand behind what you say. And if you think you are not going to be challenged, I would say you probably will at some point. So it's kind of like when you wear your seatbelt. You're wearing it not for the times that you're not in a wreck, you're wearing it for the times that you are. You also have a lot going on the make-ready side. Like, when are you going to do rekey? Are you going to do it now? Are you going to wait till a new tenant comes in? What about your smoke detectors? Are you going to check that? It's not just battery life, it's smoke check. So depending on who your rekey company is, or if you do it yourself, those are all should be part of your checklist. Condition and functionality. Are you going to walk around? Are you going to make sure there's no leaks? Are you going to make sure there's going to be things that pop up beyond your walkthrough after a tenant's gone that you might not find? So you have 30 days to account, but I'm going to tell you, if you get your walks done early and you get your processing done early, you're going to be better off. There'll be more time for you to get through this stage, which might take you a few days. I don't mean, 16 hours to do. I mean, because you're doing other things, not just one move out, it'll give you a little bit more time, and you won't feel the pressure of making sure your financial obligations are going to miss the 30-day window. You also might need a vacancy plan. And have you communicated with the landlord? Where are you in the process? This is a great time not to just do move out for the tenant, but also to have good communication with your landlord. Have you done a due market review with them? Have you sent them that documentation? Do they know what's going on with their property? I would say the number one challenge that property management has is poor communication. Those by far, it's like 89% of the challenges in property management come from lack of or poor communication. So make sure you're reaching out. You have really good opportunities to talk to your owners. Financial accounting, we covered this in the very first class in really good detail, but really good company standard is make sure you're filling out the Texas form for accounting for the security deposit. Make sure that everything that you're deducting from there is detailed out, not just kind of noted on there. It says detailed information, and that you can back it up if somebody has a challenge with that. And then make sure that all your documentation is correct and that you're sending it to, I'm just going to go back through a couple of details. Everybody who's a tenant on the lease is supposed to be on the check. If you're sending a check, that's your company policy. What is your delivery method, and what is your company policy on that? Our company policy is we will send it through trackable mail. That way, whether they got it or not, we know where it went. That was the forwarding address we got. We know if we made a mistake or if there was a challenge, we have documentation. What if they don't have a forwarding address? Good rule of thumb, company policy could be do it anyway. Send it to the last known address, which is probably going to be the lease property, and let it come back to you unsigned and stick it in the file. What if there's no refund due? What if you have to send things to collections? What is your company policy? Can you do collections? Do you have a company? Those are all really big things. And again, we're going to touch on some of that stuff in the violation section of our series. Ooh, okay, final closeout. What's left? You've taken care of the security deposit, the tenant's gone, the property's on its way to the next section. What are you doing with your company review of the tenant's performance? Do you need to worry about that? Do you need to talk about that? Were there things left at the property? What's going to happen with that stuff? Did it go well? What could you learn? Those were just some things if you have regular meetings with your team that you might want to discuss. You might be thrilled. You might want to keep up with that tenant. You might want to have offered them more services. You might want to see if you could put them in a different property or serve them another way. Seriously, we have tenants that we've had. We still send Christmas cards to because we had a great rapport. That would be a great attaboy if you had tenants at that level. I think that's pretty amazing. But you really do have to have a documentation storage and system closeout process. If you don't run a big system, you still have to have some sort of system. What are you doing with your actual physical file? Where are you putting those documents? Do you have a backup? What happens if somebody comes back in 2 years? What happens if they come back in 3? So we do have Texas Property Code and TREC standards for required documentation of our files, even on the property management side. Okay, so what did we get from all of that? It's a lot, and we shoved it all in, but it's a lot. So that's why I wanted to give you the whole PowerPoint, because in the big scheme of things, there's probably some areas that you have strengths and weaknesses, right? Whether that's people skills, or whether that's communication challenges, or whether that's streamlining or putting more systems in place so that it's not so time consuming for you. Those are all company or personal strengths and weaknesses that I would encourage you to really process. Take this. It took us an hour just to review the heavy documentation or the process or the relationship thoughts. But if you have not done it in a while or ever, this would be a great time for you to schedule some time. Doesn't have to be today. Schedule some time. Give yourself 3 or 4 hours and just meet with your team. Have like a meeting of the minds. How are we doing? Are we doing good? Well, let's rank ourselves. Let's talk about our strengths and weaknesses. Give yourself some time on that. Then go back and look at what your goals are for your company. Are you meeting those goals? Are you representing that in these processes? Are they really showing up? Do some research and development. Maybe the things I offered you doesn't really fit your business model. Maybe you want to go and understand what a tenant package is. Maybe you need to go back and figure out that your system that you're currently using is just not meeting your communication needs. Maybe it's your filing system. Maybe it's your physical file. Maybe there's just a lot of things that you need to work on. Maybe there's just a few things to tweak. But be willing to adjust, and just, if you have to scrap it, scrap it. Don't feel bad about that. I can tell you I've reinvented the wheel a couple of times and probably should have done it earlier. But I can tell you timing matters. If you don't communicate in the move in and move out process appropriately, if you miss a deadline or you don't get them in appropriately, you could start on the wrong foot. Again, you're only as good as your processing and as good as your timeline and how you're keeping up. Sometimes it feels daunting, but when you do it well and you know you did it well, you're really going to be known for doing things well. I just had to say it. Tenants really are not the enemy, and it's a relationship. And I really couldn't think of a really great relationship to kind of compare it to, because it's not a marriage, that kind of thing, but it is like an extended friend that you do have to keep up. You do have to care. You do have to think in their shoes sometimes. We have some team members that we all collaborate a lot, and we can feel the frustration of the moment, whether that's our own from the heat of the day or whatever else is going on, or it could be a Monday, it could be a crazy 5 HVAC systems are out. It could be just a lot of things, and you get a communication from a tenant, and it just kind of throws you off. And so we need some outlets sometimes to slow us down, to let us think about how they're feeling on move in or move out. It's very stressful. And just worst case scenario, put yourself some things up in your office or by your computer, or just things that are going to help you have an attitude of gratitude. That's really going to change your team outlook and your tenants' approach to when there's challenges. You know what? It's funny to say, thank you so much for letting us know that's going on. They could have said it in just such a flat 2D. We may be reading it wrong, but always be appreciative that they're reaching out, because you could have tenants that aren't reaching out at all. I mean, they could have water issues. They could have 3 dogs over there. There could be all kinds of problems. So be appreciative, even though it might be challenging and difficult. And we made it, and I hope I covered everything, and I know that I'm saving a good little portion of time for questions and answers, because I'm hoping you guys had some things that you want to talk to me about. But I really want to see if you guys can understand that you can be the wow factor that you want if you were moving. And
we have a couple.
Good.
You want to all right. Evelyn said, I only have 5 properties. Is there templates or programs for small businesses like hers?
So I think when you're small, whether you have 0 properties or 5, I love that. 5 is great. You just start with what you have, and you can do email is as powerful as any big program right now. There are a couple of systems that are for smaller companies, and we've probably changed our bigger systems 3 different times, and we started small because it was a price point, and they offer some software for trust accounting, for sending out billing, for owner statements, just some of the small things that you need. I cannot remember the very first one we used. It's been a long time, but there are some, maybe Rentfine. Research property management systems. There is a lot. And if you are just starting out or you really don't know, I'm going to be talking about NARPM here in just a minute, National Association of Residential Property Management. I kind of thought National Association of Residential Property Management. We do have a Houston chapter. It is a national company, but I'll tell you the wealth of growth and information that you'll get just from hanging out with tenured people who do this all the time, who have bigger companies, who have lots of doors. They will share anything, help you grow. You can sponge up as much as you want, but definitely search out. And if you ever want to use them as a resource, they will offer in their magazine or online all different kinds of vendors for very small companies up to lots of doors.
Great. We had two added in the chat from others. Grace Property Management Coaching and Buildium. Very good for small business, small management companies.
They are.
Good. And then the next one we had, what happens if if the tenant surrenders the property 15 days before the lease ends? What happens to those utilities?
So if you as a property management company have a standard and you said, yes, you may transfer them, you can turn that in 15 days. And they've all communicated that. I'm hoping that's the standard that we're talking about, that they've communicated that. Then you as a property management company may say, yes, I'm willing to take it 15 days early. And you, the property management company or manager, is going to go ahead and transfer the utilities based on the information that you've agreed to.
And someone else, Amy said, I've just recently started doing property management. I keep getting different answers to the accounting questions of who do I need to send 1099s to? This may be not in our scope today, but do I send one to the landlord for the rent payments that are sent out to him or her over the year?
Okay, so the answer is yes. You should have gotten a W-9 from all your landlords because you are doing trust accounting, and it's going to be more than the minimum required. So at the end of the calendar year, by I think it's the end of January, you're required to send all of your owners a 1099 for all the monies that you've collected on their behalf or paid out on their behalf. Just their accounting, you owe them a 1099.
Okay. And Natalie said she had one as well. Go ahead and put that in the chat, Natalie. She said she'd have one close to the end. Oh, you just put it, didn't you? Okay, I didn't see that was you. I'm about to start the broker quest, but I was told Champion is no longer the best school to help you with passing that exam. Have you heard of which one is best to help you study?
It's a good question, but I have not heard that Champions lost
Either.
its valor at all. And I would still recommend Champions, all the agents. There are lots of other online processes now, but I don't know who they are.
Okay. All right. Some research. Sorry, Natalie. All right. You want to go with your next two slides and then I'll take it over?
Sure. Am I clicking?
Yeah, you said you had those. Yeah.
Thank you. I was like, I didn't know if I was clicking. Okay, so we're down to the last webinar class. It will be violations and notices. The good news is, and that's August, I'm just kidding. It's October 26th. It will also be a webinar, just like these were. And the great news is I'm going to be utilizing both past experience, some amazing mentors that I have through NARPM, and some attorney support for those things as well. Because when you get to violations and notices, I cannot even imagine the questions of the specifics that people are going to try to throw out. And it will most likely be interesting. So I think that's going to be a cool class. Okay, and then last but not least, NARPM. Our next meeting will be, let's see, August 17th. It's Meet the Judges. It's very, very popular. You do not have to be a member to attend the NARPM Houston classes. So meetings. Usually we have NARPM members on our webinars. So if anybody wants to do a shout out, and Melinda will maybe voice whatever it is you'd like to say. But it's $25. It's at a restaurant. Would they shut down the restaurant for us? We have the whole restaurant. The parking is kind of difficult. I'll just give you that in advance. So when you come, don't be discouraged by that. There's parking sort of around that facility. Find it and get there. So 11 to 1. And again, the judges, it's just great because they talk about things that are so important that are affecting us, whether it's evictions or kind of answering questions. It's just great. It's a great one. Anyway, Swangela.
We do have a shout out that NARPM is so great. They've taught me so much and it's an amazing tool. Awesome. Thanks, you guys. So thanks again to our awesome speaker, to each of you for taking the time to become more educated, not just for yourself, but we want you to be educated for your clients too and your business. As mentioned, we have each month we host different webinars to help you succeed in this real estate career. Next month, we're going to talk about affordable housing and all the resources available for you to share with your clients. It's going to be from 12 to 1:30 on August 16th. I'm going to post the link here in just a second in the chat. I have two links to send you and send at the same time. And lastly, HAR is launching a mini MBA 10-week online program to take advantage of that early bird pricing. Sign up for this second link at goalsmaker.com/HAR. And that's all for today. I'm going to hang on for last minute questions and I'm going to go ahead and send those two links right now. Thanks for coming, you guys. Let me know if you have any lingering questions. Right. Awesome. We're getting thank yous in the chat. Yes, that was the first link with a 49275 link. Affordable housing meeting. Yeah, no, affordable meetings. All right. When this video has been edited and shortened and posted online, I'll be sending you guys a link in the email, okay?
Thank you guys. It's a lot of fun hanging out with you for an hour-ish. And I hope you found some great content that you can go wow your tenants.
I'm going to post that again, Margarita, for you. So you see that, which one is the affordable housing. There you go. That's the link right there, Margarita. All right. All right, send me an email if you have any lingering questions or you need a link or something, and I'll see you guys next time.
Have a good day.
Bye. Goals market. Yes. Copy. Oh, goals maker link does not work. Oh, that's why you're asking me to redo it. Let me check it. Goalsmaker.com/HAR. Let me check it. Let me test it for you guys. And let me just recopy it from the URL instead of that little abbreviated link. Okay, there you go. There's your goals maker. It was probably a compressed link. She was trying to shorten it. I just put the full one in there in the chat. Okay.
Doesn't work either.
The full one?
I don't think so.
Yeah, loaded, no problem. Huge domain. Oh, it says this domain. Okay, I'm gonna have to send that one. It is a damaged link. I'm gonna have to send that one in your email, okay, guys? Because it was sending me to buy that domain, so they may have made a mistype in that link URL. But I'll get you guys that link in email probably today. So not waiting for the link for the webinar. All right. Okay. All right. Email me if you'll have any problems, and we're gonna go ahead and sign off. Y'all have a good day.